The first lie is the one you tell yourself. You think that because you have eyes, you can see. But in a true whiteout, your eyes are useless. They are just two frozen orbs lying to you. They will tell you the snow is rising up, that the sky is at your feet. They will make you walk in a circle until you die of exhaustion. I was blind. The wind was not a sound. It was a thing. It was a solid wall of ice and noise that tried to tear the breath from my lungs. I could not see my own feet. I could not see the hand I held in front of my face. I was nowhere, and I was digging, not for shelter, not yet. I was digging for knowledge. I clawed at the new snow, the fine sugary powder the storm was driving. I dug down 1 foot, 2 feet. My arm plunged deep, felt the change, the old snow, the layer from before. It was different. It was granular, heavier. I kept my mitten on. This was not a job for bare skin. This was a job for feel. I moved my hand back and forth against the grain of the drift. The wind, for the last 3 days before the storm, had been coming from the west. It had packed the snow into tiny, hard ridges. Sastrugi! I could feel them pointing east-west. The storm I was in, this wind, was screaming from the north. I now had 2 truths, the wind that was, the wind that is. I was lost. But in the screaming, blind white, I had just found my compass. This is the wisdom. It is not about seeing. It is about reading. How does a man get to a place where he is digging in the snow, blind, to remember which way is up? He gets there with pride. The world gives you signs. It always gives you signs. The deadly cold does not just appear, it announces itself. It whispers before it roars. The wisdom I have, it was not given to me. It was bought. It was paid for with scars and with the near cost of my own life. I was on the high line tracking, but I was not just hunting. I was wanting. It was a bull elk, a giant, a 6x6 with beams so wide he could not walk through thick pine without turning his head. I had seen his tracks for 2 days. They were fresh. The scent of him was thick in the air. He was a king, and I was a fool. I was so full of the chase, so full of the want, that I ignored the knowing. I saw the signs. You people, you look at your little glowing boxes. You have a woman in a studio tell you what the weather will be. I look at the world. The chickadees, they vanished. 2 hours before the storm, the forest went silent. Not a bird, not a squirrel. That is a sign. The sky, it was not cloudy. It was a strange, sick, yellowish gray to the north, a color that means the air is full of ice, high up. The smell. The air lost its clean pine scent. It began to smell of iron, of metal. I knew all these signs. I knew what they meant. A norther, a bad one. And I told myself, he is just over the next ridge. I told myself, I am faster, I am smarter, I can get him and get back to the cabin before it hits. Pride. The wisdom is not just knowing the signs. It is the humility to obey them. I did not obey, so the mountain, it decided to teach me. The deadly cold has only one true weapon. It's not the wind. It's not the snow. It's you. It uses your body against you. It uses your mind against you. It uses your pride to draw you in too deep. It uses your panic to make you run. And when you run, you sweat. And when you sweat, you are dead. It uses your fear to make you fight, to make you push against the wind, wasting calories that are more precious than gold. And when it has taken all that, it uses your despair to make you sit down, to make you give in to the warm, sleepy lie. The wisdom to beat the cold. It is not a fight. You cannot fight a blizzard. You cannot punch the wind. The wisdom is control. It is the iron discipline to master the panic in your own heart. It is the wisdom to know that when you are most terrified, when your animal brain is screaming, run, that is the one moment you must be still. It is the wisdom to know that movement is death. It is the wisdom to stop, to think, and to read. The hunt, the pride. He was magnificent. I saw him on the second morning across a wide basin. He was digging for lichen, his great antlers like a bare tree against the snow. I was a mile away, downwind. I did not move. I just watched. I spent that whole day closing the distance, not walking, gliding, one slow, patient snowshoe step at a time. He was smart. He was moving into the wind so he could smell what was coming. But I was coming from the side. By afternoon, I was within 300 yards. I had my rifle, but the wind was strange. It was shifting. It would blow, then stop. The silence in between was wrong. It was too heavy. The chickadees were gone. I noted it. I noted the metallic smell, and I saw the elk. He was right there. One more ridge, I whispered to myself. My breath froze on my beard. Get him over that ridge, and he's mine. I moved. The elk, he didn't smell me. He felt it. He felt the pressure drop. He stopped digging. He raised his great head. And he didn't run. He vanished. He just went into the timber, and he was gone. And in that instant, the world ended. The trap, the storm. It did not begin with a flake. It began with a shove. The wind hit me from the north like a locomotive. It knocked me off my snowshoes. And then the sound, a high, thin scream that seemed to come from inside my own skull. The sky vanished. The trees, 30 yards away, vanished. It was not snowing. The world was just disintegrating into a white, howling, horizontal chaos. I was blind in 3 seconds. I had lost the elk. I had lost the world. In that moment, the hunter became the hunted. Day 1, the fight, the panic. The cabin, that was my one stupid thought. The cabin is south, the wind is north, I will walk south. I turned my back to the wind. A good plan. For a minute. But the wind, it wasn't a steady thing. It was gusting. It was swirling. It would hit me from the left, then the right. After 10 minutes, I didn't know which way my back was. I was just a thing, being beaten by a bigger thing. I pushed on. I was fighting. I put my head down, and I charged into the white. I was angry. Angry at the elk. Angry at the storm. Angry at my own stupidity. I could feel the hot, wet sting of sweat on my back. My wool shirt was getting damp. Poison. I was walking fast. I was breathing hard. I was burning my fuel. I was soaking my clothes. I was dying. I fell. I tripped over a log I could not see. I lay there in the snow, the wind tearing at me and the fear. It was a cold iron hand that seized my heart. It was a physical taste, like old copper in my mouth. I am lost. This is where it happens. This is where men die. I could feel the animal urge. Run! Get up and run! My legs were tensing. I was about to scramble up and just run in any direction, just to move. Day 2, the stop, the wisdom of patience, and then the other voice, the old voice, the voice of the mountain itself, the voice of my Cree teachers. Stop. It was so quiet, under the roar of the wind. Stop. You are an animal. You are panicking. Stop. To move is to die. To run is to die. To sweat is to die. Stop. I did not get up. I stayed on my hands and knees. I breathed. I forced the air past the panic into my belly. I am lost. Good. That is the first truth. Now, what is the second? The wind is the killer. So, I must hide from the wind. I did not get up. I crawled on my hands and knees. I crawled until I hit something solid. The trunk of a tree, a big one. I did not know which way I was facing. It did not matter. I felt around the base. The snow was deep on one side. A deep, solid drift. A shelter. I did not have a shovel. I had my snowshoes. I unstrapped one, and I dug. I did not dig with panic. I dug with rhythm. Dig. Breathe. Push the snow. I was not building a house. I was building a grave, a place to lie in. I dug for an hour. A long, narrow trench into the drift beside the tree. I dug it deep. 6 feet, 7 feet. I could feel my body heat. I was still sweating, so I stopped. I lay in the trench, and I opened my parka. I let the cold air hit my damp wool shirt. It was an agony. My body shook. The wool, it didn't freeze. It just got cold. Good. The moisture is managed. I finished the hole. I broke branches from the tree, piled them on the bottom, my mattress. I crawled in. I took my other snowshoe and my pack, and I blocked the entrance. And the world stopped. The sound, the scream of the wind, it was gone. It was just a distant, muffled whoomp. The darkness was total. It was just me, the dark, and the cold. I was buried, and I was safe. This was the wisdom, the patience. I spent, I do not know, a day, maybe more. Time does not exist in a white tomb. I did not sleep. To sleep is to die. I worked. In the blackness, I forced myself through a ritual. First, eat. I reached into my pack. I found the canvas bag of bear fat. I did not want it. My body was cold, not hungry. I forced myself to eat. I chewed the cold, waxy fuel. Eat, or the furnace goes out. Second, move. I could not move much, but I flexed. I flexed my toes inside my moccasins until they burned. I flexed my fingers. I tensed my legs. I kept the blood moving. Third, listen. I listened to the wind. I listened to my own heart. I fought the madness, the cabin fever, the dark, the feeling of the snow pressing on me. The panic would come back. You are buried alive, and the wisdom would answer, I am hiding. I am safe. This was the real battle, not with the cold, with the fear, and I just waited. Day 3. The reading, the wisdom of observation. The sound changed. It did not stop. It lessened. The scream became a howl, then a moan. After a long time, it was just a sigh. I waited 6 more hours. Then I pushed. I pushed my pack, and the world came back. The light, it was so bright it hurt. It was a pure, clean, blinding white. I crawled out of my tomb. I was a new man, born from the snow. The world was new. There was not one tree, not one rock that I recognized. The storm had buried everything in a 4-foot-deep sculpted drift. There were no tracks, no sun, just a high, white, uniform glare. My cabin was that way. I pointed, but was it? My compass. The needle was slow, thick. The cold was killing it. This is the second place men die. They survive the storm and die in the calm. They walk the wrong way. I looked at my own footprints coming out of the hole. The wind had already softened them. Do not trust your eyes. They are lying. Read. I went back to that first truth, the one I found when I was blind. I got on my knees. I dug again. I found the old layer, the sastrugi, the tiny hard ridges, west, east. My finger inside my mitten could feel them. They were my map, the old map, now the new map. I looked at the fresh drifts. They were sculpted. Sharp edges on one side, a long sloping tail on the other. The wind had come from the north. Good. The prevailing wind is west. The storm wind was north. My cabin is on the south side of the Grizzy Creek. It is east of the high pass. I had 2 fixed points. I looked for a tree, a big one on its own. I found one. I looked at its branches. On the north side, they were short, broken, gnarled. On the south side, they were long, full, reaching for the sun. That was my compass. The tree was my compass. It had been telling the truth for 100 years. South is that way. I pointed. Now, east. The prevailing wind, the one that made those deep sastrugi, was from the west. I now knew west. I now knew south. I knew where I was, not by seeing, but by reading. I put on my snowshoes, I ate a piece of fat, and I began to walk. The walk home, the beating. It was not a walk, it was a pilgrimage. It took me 2 days. The world was a frozen white desert. My body was weak. My pride was gone. I was not a hunter. I was a survivor. I moved with the wolf's pace, slow, steady, never sweating. When I felt the heat build, I stopped. I opened my parka. I let the cold clean me. I ate my fat. I did not fight the snow. I read it. I walked on the wind-blown ridges where the snow was packed hard. I did not waste my energy wading through drifts. My mind was quiet. I was not beating the cold. I was using it. I was respecting its laws. I was harmonizing with it. When I finally saw the smoke from my cabin chimney, I did not cheer. I just nodded. I had paid the price, and I had been allowed to live. When I was young, I was full of the white man's hurry. I walked with an old Cree man, stands in shadow. I was always walking ahead. He was always lagging behind. "You walk too fast," he said. "I'm young," I said. "I'm strong." He smiled. He pointed to a chickadee sitting on a branch. "What is he saying?" Stands in Shadow asked. "He's chirping," I said. "He is telling us," the old man said, "that the air is heavy. He is saying, 'Go slow. Stay near home.' You do not listen. You only talk." He was right. He taught me that the world is a book. Every pine needle, every bird call, every shape of the snow, it is a word. "The white man," he said, "is blind. He trusts his eyes. He walks off a cliff because he is looking at his map, not at the ground." That is the wisdom. I ignored it when I chased that elk. I thought I knew better. I was wrong. I survived because of what he taught me. I survived because I finally stopped, and I listened to the chickadee. You are lost. All of you. You sit in your warm houses, and you watch the world on a screen. You have a man in a box tell you it is cold. You have a map in your phone tell you where you are. You have forgotten the feel of the world. You have forgotten how to read. You have traded wisdom for information, and information is a thin blanket. Your GPS, its battery dies in the true cold. Your weather app, it cannot tell you about the silence of the birds. Your gear, it is just a high-tech coffin. The deadly cold, it requires wisdom. It requires the humility to know that you are small and the world is big. It requires you to use the one tool you have all abandoned, your senses, your mind. You cannot beat the cold. That is the talk of a fool. You can only outthink it. The modern man cannot beat the cold because he brings his pride to the fight. He tries to conquer the storm. But you cannot conquer a force of nature. You can only read your way through it. You can only show it enough respect that it decides to let you pass. The wisdom is knowing that you are never the one in charge. The cold always is.